There's a moment suspended between life and death when the veil thins to transparency. In that sacred threshold, the soul sees with eyes unclouded by flesh, perceives with a consciousness unbound by time. What emerges in those profound moments isn't random, isn't chaos. It's a mirror, a reflection of the deepest truth we carry within. Thousands of people from every corner of our world have stepped to this edge and returned. They speak of things that defy logic yet resonate with ancient wisdom. A brilliant light that knows them intimately, a tunnel that draws them forward, a life review that unfolds not in judgment, but in perfect understanding. These aren't merely hallucinations of a dying brain. They're glimpses into the architecture of consciousness itself. Raymond Moody spent decades listening to these testimonies, cataloging these experiences, searching for the patterns that unite us all in our most transformative moments. What he discovered challenges our deepest assumptions about death, about life, about the very nature of who we are. These universal symbols, the light, the tunnel, the review, appear again and again, transcending culture, religion, and personal belief. They emerge from something deeper than our individual stories, something woven into the fabric of existence itself. Consider this possibility. What if these experiences aren't happening to us, but rather revealing what's already within us? What if the light people see isn't external, but the radiance of their own soul finally recognized? What if the tunnel isn't a passage to somewhere else, but a journey into the depths of our own being? And what if the life review isn't a cosmic judgment, but the soul's own reckoning with its earthly journey? The implications are staggering. If what we see at death's door reflects who we truly are, then every near-death experience becomes a profound teaching about the nature of consciousness. It suggests that we carry within us, right now, all the elements of our own transcendence. The light is already here. The tunnel is already open. The capacity for complete self-understanding already exists within our deepest core. Ancient mystics spoke of this truth in different languages. They described the inner light that illuminates all perception, the narrow gate that leads to liberation, the moment of perfect self-knowledge that dissolves all illusion. What near-death experiences reveal is that these aren't just metaphors or spiritual poetry. They're literal descriptions of consciousness encountering itself, free from the constraints of physical existence. Think about the last time you experienced a moment of pure clarity, when everything suddenly made sense, that glimpse of understanding, that flash of insight. It's a tiny echo of what souls experience when they stand at the threshold. The difference is one of degree, not of kind. We touch these states in meditation, in moments of profound love, in experiences of beauty that take our breath away. The near-death experience simply removes all barriers, all filters, allowing consciousness to see itself completely. The remarkable consistency of these experiences across cultures points to something fundamental about human consciousness. A person raised in a small village in India sees essentially the same light as a businessman from New York City. A child encounters the same tunnel as an elderly philosopher. This universality suggests we're dealing with something structural, something built into the very nature of awareness itself. But here's where it becomes deeply personal. The quality of what people see, the nature of their experience, seems intimately connected to how they've lived. It's not about moral judgment or cosmic scorekeeping. It's about resonance. A heart that has practiced love recognizes the love in that light more readily. A mind that has sought truth finds itself at home in that clarity. A soul that has faced its shadows moves through the tunnel with less resistance. This isn't to say that some people have better near-death experiences than others. Rather, it suggests that our lifetime of choices, thoughts, and actions creates a kind of lens through which we perceive these universal elements. The light is the same, but how we see it, how we relate to it, how we understand it, that's uniquely ours. Imagine consciousness as a vast ocean, and our individual awareness as waves upon its surface. Most of our lives, we identify solely with our wave, our personal story, our individual form. But in the near-death experience, the wave realizes it has always been ocean. The symbols that appear, light, tunnel, life review, are like the ocean showing the wave its true nature. Yet this revelation comes differently to each consciousness. Some waves have spent their existence crashing violently against the shore, creating turbulence and foam. Others have moved in harmony with the deeper currents. When the moment of recognition comes, when the wave sees itself as ocean, the quality of that seeing reflects the entire journey of that particular expression of consciousness. This brings us to a profound question. If what we see at death's door mirrors who we are, what does that mean for how we live right now? Every choice becomes significant, not because of reward or punishment, but because we're literally crafting the lens through which we'll eventually perceive ultimate reality. We're not just living life, we're preparing our consciousness for its greatest adventure. In the moments when people describe entering that mysterious light, something extraordinary happens. They don't just see illumination, they encounter a presence that seems to know them more intimately than they know themselves. This light radiates not just brightness, but understanding, acceptance, and what many describe as unconditional love. It sees through all pretense, all masks, all the stories we tell ourselves, yet embraces us completely. This isn't the harsh light of exposure, but the gentle radiance of recognition. What makes this light so profound isn't its physical properties, but its conscious nature. Those who experience it describe not just seeing light, but being seen by it. It's as if consciousness itself takes visible form, reflecting back to us our own deepest nature. This light doesn't judge in the conventional sense, yet in its presence nothing can be hidden. Every shadow is illuminated, not to condemn, but to integrate. Throughout history, mystics have spoken of inner light, divine radiance, the illumination that comes with spiritual awakening. What near-death experiences suggest is that this isn't merely poetic language. This light represents something fundamental about consciousness when it's freed from physical limitations. It's what remains when all the filters of ego, fear, and separation are removed. The way individuals perceive this light varies significantly. Some describe it as golden, others as pure white brilliance. Some see distinct colors that seem to communicate specific meanings. These variations aren't random. They reflect the spiritual vocabulary of each soul, the symbolic language through which consciousness expresses itself. A person who has cultivated inner peace might experience the light as profoundly calming. Someone who has struggled with self-acceptance might first perceive it as overwhelming, before recognizing it as pure love. This relationship between the observer and the light reveals something crucial about the nature of spiritual experience. We don't just passively receive these encounters, we co-create them through the lens of our own consciousness. The light is universal, but our perception of it is intimately personal. It's like viewing the same sun through different prisms, each creating its own spectrum of colors. Consider how this mirrors our everyday experiences with illumination. Physical light reveals the world around us, but the quality of what we see depends on the clarity of our vision. Someone with clouded perception sees differently than someone with clear sight. The near-death experience simply makes this principle visible in the spiritual realm. The light reveals not just external reality, but the internal landscape of the soul. Many who return from these experiences describe being changed by their encounter with the light. They speak of carrying some of its radiance back with them, of seeing the world differently, of recognizing that same light within others. This suggests that the light isn't just something we observe in extraordinary circumstances, but a fundamental quality of consciousness that we can access and embody. The transformative power of this light lies in its ability to show us our true nature. In its presence, many report understanding for the first time that they are not their fears, not their limitations, not even their personal history. They are, at their core, beings of light temporarily clothed in physical form. This recognition often brings profound healing, as years of self-doubt and self-criticism dissolve in the face of such complete acceptance. What's particularly striking is how this light seems to adapt to each individual's capacity to receive it. Like a skilled teacher, it reveals truth at exactly the pace the soul can handle. Some describe a gradual intensification, as if the light is carefully preparing them for deeper revelations. Others speak of an immediate immersion that somehow feels perfectly calibrated to their needs in that moment. This adaptive quality suggests something profound about the nature of spiritual reality. It implies that ultimate truth isn't a fixed destination, but a living relationship between consciousness and its source. The light doesn't impose itself but invites recognition. It doesn't demand transformation but creates the conditions in which transformation becomes natural. In many accounts, this light serves as a kind of bridge between the familiar and the infinite. It appears at the threshold of death, offering both comfort and challenge. It says, in essence, you are safe, you are loved, and you are more than you ever imagined. This message resonates so deeply because it addresses our most fundamental fears while awakening our highest aspirations. The question then becomes, if this light represents our essential nature, why don't we perceive it constantly? The answer seems to lie in the layers of conditioning, fear, and identification with temporary forms that cloud our spiritual vision. The near-death experience temporarily removes these obstacles, allowing consciousness to recognize itself clearly. This understanding transforms how we might approach our spiritual development. Instead of seeking to acquire something external, we're invited to remove the barriers to recognizing what's already within us. Every spiritual practice, every moment of genuine self-inquiry, every act of authentic love becomes a way of polishing the mirror of consciousness, preparing us to recognize our own light more clearly. As we reflect on these encounters with divine light, we're left with a profound realization. What people see at the threshold of death isn't alien or other, but the deepest truth of their own being. The light that embraces them is the light they've always carried within. The love that accepts them completely is the love they're capable of embodying. The consciousness that knows them intimately is their own awareness freed from limitation. This suggests that our ultimate spiritual task isn't to become something we're not, but to recognize what we've always been. The near-death experience offers us a glimpse of this recognition, inviting us to live from this truth even while embodied in physical form. It whispers to us that we need not wait for death's door to encounter our own radiance. The light is here now, waiting only for our willingness to see. Moving beyond the light, we encounter another universal symbol that appears with remarkable consistency in near-death experiences: the tunnel. This mysterious passageway represents far more than a simple corridor between worlds. It embodies the very process of transformation, the journey from one state of consciousness to another, the sacred transition that every soul must eventually navigate. The tunnel appears in countless testimonies, described sometimes as dark, sometimes as luminescent, often as a spinning vortex that draws consciousness forward with irresistible momentum. Yet, despite these variations in appearance, its fundamental nature remains constant. It serves as a bridge between the known and the unknown, between limitation and expansion, between who we think we are and who we truly are. What's fascinating about the tunnel experience is how it reflects our relationship with change itself. Some souls move through it with complete surrender, describing a sense of acceleration that feels both exhilarating and perfectly natural. Others report initial resistance, a clinging to the familiar that gradually gives way to trust. This variance isn't random. It mirrors how we've approached transitions throughout our lives. Consider how we navigate major life changes: the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, a career transformation, or a spiritual awakening. Each of these experiences contains its own tunnel, a passage through uncertainty where the old must be released before the new can be fully embraced. The tunnel in near-death experiences simply makes this universal principle visible in its purest form. Ancient spiritual traditions have long recognized this archetype. The birth canal, the cave of initiation, the dark night of the soul, all these symbols point to the same fundamental truth. Transformation requires passage through a space where the old identity dissolves and the new has not yet fully formed. The tunnel in near-death experiences is perhaps the most direct manifestation of this archetypal journey. What makes the tunnel particularly profound is its quality of inevitability combined with perfect safety. Many describe feeling completely held even as they surrender control, protected even as they move through apparent darkness. This paradox reveals something essential about the nature of spiritual transformation. True change requires both surrender and trust, both letting go and being held. The speed at which souls traverse this tunnel often corresponds to their level of resistance or acceptance. Those who have practiced surrender in life through meditation, through facing their fears, through embracing uncertainty, often describe a swift, almost joyful passage. Others who have held tightly to control may experience a more gradual journey, as if the tunnel itself is teaching them how to let go. Interestingly, many report that the tunnel isn't empty but filled with subtle presences, memories, or insights that arise during the passage. It's as if this transitional space allows for a kind of processing, an integration of life experiences that prepares consciousness for what lies beyond. The tunnel becomes not just a passageway, but a sacred space of transformation, where the soul sheds what no longer serves its evolution. This shedding process mirrors what mystics have described as the purification necessary for spiritual awakening. In the tunnel, there's no room for the heavy baggage of ego, resentment, or fear. These simply fall away, not through force, but through the natural movement toward greater truth. What remains is the essential self, ready to encounter the fullness of its own being. The tunnel also serves as a powerful metaphor for the spiritual journey itself. We spend our lives moving through various tunnels, periods of uncertainty, transformation, and growth, each preparing us for greater expansion. The near-death tunnel is simply the most dramatic representation of a process we've been engaged in all along. Many who return from these experiences describe the tunnel as having fundamentally changed their relationship with transition and uncertainty. Having passed through the ultimate unknown and found it safe, they approach life's changes with less fear and more trust. They understand experientially what spiritual teachers have long proclaimed, that surrender to the process of transformation leads not to annihilation but to liberation. The tunnel teaches us that the space between what was and what will be isn't empty but pregnant with possibility. It's in this liminal space that genuine transformation occurs. Just as a caterpillar must dissolve completely in its chrysalis before emerging as a butterfly, consciousness must sometimes pass through apparent darkness to reach its next level of expression. What's particularly striking is how the tunnel experience often includes a point of no return, a moment where the soul recognizes it has crossed a threshold and cannot go back to its previous state of limitation. This isn't frightening but liberating, as if consciousness finally understands that its true nature has always been freedom, expansion, and light. The tunnel ultimately reveals itself as a teacher, showing us that what we fear most, the dissolution of our familiar identity, is actually the doorway to our greatest freedom. It demonstrates that letting go isn't loss but liberation, that surrender isn't defeat but victory over our own limitations. This understanding has profound implications for how we live. Every challenge, every uncertainty, every moment that asks us to release our grip on the familiar becomes an opportunity to practice the art of conscious transition. We learn that tunnels appear throughout our lives not as obstacles but as gateways, inviting us to discover ever greater dimensions of our own being. As souls emerge from the tunnel in near-death experiences, they often describe a sense of arrival, not at a destination but at a new beginning. They've passed through the eye of the needle, shed what was temporary, and stand ready to encounter truth in its fullness. This emergence isn't just physical but spiritual, marking a profound shift in consciousness that many carry back into their embodied lives. The tunnel, then, isn't just a feature of near-death experiences but a fundamental archetype of consciousness evolution. It appears whenever we're ready to transcend our current limitations, whenever we're prepared to journey from who we think we are to who we truly are. In this light, every tunnel becomes a birth canal, every passage through darkness a movement toward greater light, every surrender an act of courage that opens us to dimensions of existence we never imagined possible. As we contemplate these profound transitions, we begin to understand that the tunnel isn't something that happens to us, but something we participate in creating through our own relationship with change. Those who learn to embrace transformation in life move through death's tunnel with the grace of recognition, understanding that they've been practicing this sacred passage all along. Emerging from the tunnel, souls often encounter what may be the most profound and transformative aspect of the near-death experience: the life review. This isn't a simple replay of memories or a chronological slideshow of events. It's a multidimensional encounter with the truth of one's existence, where every action, thought, and intention is experienced not just from one's own perspective, but from the viewpoint of everyone affected by our choices. In this extraordinary state of consciousness, the artificial boundaries between self and other dissolve. People describe simultaneously experiencing their own emotions and those of everyone they've touched throughout their lifetime. A harsh word spoken in anger is felt not only as it left their lips, but as it landed in another's heart. An act of kindness, perhaps long forgotten, reverberates with the joy it brought to its recipient. This isn't judgment from an external authority, but rather consciousness encountering its own ripple effects across the web of existence. What makes this review so transformative isn't its comprehensiveness, but its compassion. Many describe being held in absolute love throughout the process, even when confronting their most regrettable actions. There's no condemning voice, no punishing presence, only the soul's own recognition of truth. This absence of external judgment often proves more powerful than any criticism could be, as consciousness naturally aligns with love when shown the full consequences of its choices. The life review reveals patterns that were invisible during life itself. Moments that seemed insignificant, a smile offered to a stranger, patience shown to a difficult colleague, time spent listening to a troubled friend, emerge as profoundly meaningful. Conversely, achievements that once seemed important often fade in significance compared to these simple acts of connection and compassion. Many report that the review doesn't proceed in linear time, but operates in a kind of eternal present, where past, present, and potential futures coexist. They see not only what was, but what could have been. Not just actions taken, but opportunities missed. Yet even these revelations of missed potential come wrapped in understanding rather than regret, as if the soul recognizes that every experience, including its apparent failures, serves its evolution. What becomes startlingly clear in these reviews is that our smallest actions carry weight far beyond what we imagine. A moment of genuine presence with another person ripples out through their life, affecting their interactions with others, creating chains of influence that extend far beyond our immediate awareness. We discover that we've been weaving ourselves into the fabric of collective consciousness with every choice, every thought, every authentic connection. The life review often focuses particularly on relationships and moments of genuine human connection. Material accomplishments, social status, and external achievements, goals that may have consumed tremendous energy during life, often barely register. Instead, the soul finds itself drawn to examine how well it loved, how authentically it lived, how much it contributed to the healing and growth of others. Many describe encountering a kind of spiritual mathematics during their review, where the equation isn't about moral debits and credits, but about the expansion or contraction of consciousness. Actions motivated by fear, separation, or ego are experienced as constrictive, while those arising from love, connection, and authenticity feel expansive. The soul naturally gravitates toward what expands it, learning through direct experience, rather than abstract principle. This process often includes not just individual actions, but entire patterns of being. Someone might recognize how a childhood wound led to decades of defensive behavior, seeing simultaneously the original hurt, their protective responses, and how those patterns affected countless relationships. Yet this recognition comes with such compassion that healing often occurs spontaneously, as understanding replaces judgment. The life review frequently extends beyond personal experiences to include a broader understanding of one's role in the human story. Many report seeing how their individual journey connects to larger patterns of human evolution, how their struggles and triumphs contribute to collective learning. This expanded perspective transforms personal suffering into meaningful contribution, showing how even our difficulties serve the greater awakening of consciousness. What's particularly profound is how the life review handles mistakes and failures. Rather than punishment or shame, there's an invitation to understand, to learn, to integrate. Many describe feeling their own higher self or spiritual essence providing context for difficult experiences, showing how apparent mistakes were necessary for growth, how failures led to essential insights, how even our darkest moments contained seeds of transformation. The review often reveals that our harshest self-judgments were misplaced, based on limited understanding or impossible standards. People discover that what they considered their greatest failures were sometimes their most important teachings, that their struggles helped others in ways they never imagined, that their imperfections made them more effective healers and teachers than perfection ever could have. As souls progress through their review, many describe a growing recognition that they are both the reviewer and the reviewed, both the witness and the participant. This isn't an external examination, but consciousness encountering itself, love recognizing itself in all its expressions. The apparent separation between judge and judged dissolves into unified awareness that sees all experience as part of a greater wholeness. The life review ultimately reveals that we are not just individuals having isolated experiences, but nodes in an interconnected web of consciousness. Our thoughts, actions, and intentions ripple out through this web, affecting the whole in ways we can barely imagine while embodied. This understanding brings both profound responsibility and incredible hope, showing us that every moment offers the opportunity to contribute to the healing and evolution of all consciousness. Many who return from these experiences find themselves fundamentally changed in their approach to daily life. Having seen how powerfully our intentions and actions affect others, they become more conscious, more compassionate, more committed to living from love rather than fear. They understand experientially what spiritual traditions have long taught, that we are all one, that separation is an illusion, that love is the fundamental reality underlying all existence. The life review, then, isn't just a feature of near-death experiences, but a profound teaching about the nature of consciousness itself. It shows us that we are already living in eternity, that every moment contains infinite depth, that our smallest choices matter in ways we can barely comprehend. It invites us to live now with the awareness that usually comes only at life's end, to choose love over fear, connection over separation, authenticity over pretense. This understanding transforms how we approach our remaining time in physical form. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to contribute to the collective healing, every choice a chance to align with our highest truth. We begin to live our lives as if we're simultaneously experiencing them and reviewing them, bringing the wisdom of eternal perspective into temporal existence. The most profound lesson of the life review may be its revelation that judgment has always been an inside job. The universe doesn't condemn us. We evaluate ourselves in the light of truth. And in that light, held in infinite compassion, we naturally align with love. This recognition frees us from the fear of external punishment and invites us into the far more demanding and rewarding practice of conscious, compassionate living. As we integrate these profound elements, the light, the tunnel, and the life review, a remarkable pattern emerges. These aren't separate experiences happening in sequence, but interconnected aspects of consciousness encountering itself at the deepest level. Together, they form a map of awareness that reveals not just what happens at death's threshold, but who we fundamentally are beneath all the layers of identity and conditioning. The synthesis of these experiences points to something extraordinary. Consciousness itself has a structure, an architecture that becomes visible when freed from physical constraints. The light represents our essential nature, pure awareness, unconditional love, infinite understanding. The tunnel symbolizes our capacity for transformation, our ability to move between states of being, to evolve and transcend. The life review reveals our interconnectedness, showing how individual consciousness weaves itself into the greater tapestry of existence. What becomes clear is that these elements aren't foreign additions to our experience, but revelations of what's already present within us. We don't acquire the light at death. We finally recognize the radiance we've always carried. We don't enter a tunnel from outside. We discover the transformative passage that exists within our own being. We don't face an external judge in the life review. We encounter our own capacity for perfect understanding and compassion. This recognition fundamentally shifts our understanding of spiritual development. Instead of seeing enlightenment as something to achieve in some distant future, we begin to understand it as the recognition of what's already here. Every moment becomes an opportunity to align with the light of our essential nature, to embrace the transformative power of change, to live with awareness of our interconnection with all beings. The quality of what people experience in near-death state seems directly related to their level of spiritual development. not in terms of religious belief or moral perfection, but in terms of consciousness evolution. Those who have cultivated presence, compassion, and authenticity throughout their lives often describe moving through these experiences with greater ease and deeper recognition. It's as if they've been unconsciously preparing for this ultimate encounter with truth. This doesn't mean that spiritual development guarantees a better near-death experience. Rather, it suggests that our lifetime of choices creates a kind of resonance that affects how we perceive and integrate these profound states. Someone who has practiced opening to love recognizes love more readily in the light. Someone who has embraced change moves through the tunnel with less resistance. Someone who has cultivated compassion experiences the life review with greater understanding. The implications extend far beyond the moment of death. If these experiences reveal the fundamental structure of consciousness, then we have access to these same dimensions right now. The light of awareness illuminates every moment of our existence. The tunnel of transformation appears whenever we face significant change. The interconnected web revealed in the life review surrounds us constantly, responding to our every thought and action. This understanding invites us into a radically different way of living. Instead of postponing spiritual awakening until some future moment, we can begin recognizing these elements in our daily experience. Every moment of genuine presence connects us with the light. Every willing embrace of change moves us through a mini tunnel of transformation. Every conscious interaction acknowledges the web of connection that the life review ultimately reveals. The mirror of consciousness that people encounter at death's door reflects back not just who they are in that moment, but who they've been becoming throughout their entire existence. It shows the cumulative effect of countless choices, the overall direction of their consciousness evolution, the fundamental orientation of their being toward love or fear, connection or separation, truth or illusion. This mirror effect explains why different people can have such varied experiences even when encountering the same universal elements. The light is constant, but our capacity to receive it varies. The tunnel is always available, but our willingness to enter it differs. The life review presents truth impartially, but our ability to integrate that truth depends on our spiritual maturity. Yet there's profound hope in this understanding. If our death experience mirrors our life orientation, then every moment offers the opportunity to polish that mirror, to clarify our vision, to align more fully with truth. We're not victims of fate, but active participants in creating the lens through which we'll eventually perceive ultimate reality. The most liberating aspect of this recognition is its immediacy. We need not wait for death's door to encounter these truths. The light shines now in every moment of awareness. The tunnel opens whenever we release our grip on the familiar. The interconnected web pulses with every heartbeat, responds to every intention, records every authentic gesture of love. This perspective transforms spiritual practice from preparation for some future event into engagement with present reality. Meditation becomes not just stress relief, but conscious alignment with the light of awareness. Embracing change becomes not just personal growth, but practice for the ultimate transition. Cultivating compassion becomes not just ethical behavior, but recognition of our fundamental interconnection. As we contemplate these profound teachings from the threshold of death, we're invited into a new relationship with life itself. Every experience becomes richer when we recognize its eternal dimension. Every relationship deepens when we see it as part of an infinite web of connection. Every challenge becomes more meaningful when we understand it as an opportunity for consciousness to evolve. The ultimate message of near-death experiences may be this: we are already the light we seek, already capable of transformation we fear, already connected in ways we've barely imagined. Death's door doesn't grant us these qualities, but reveals what we've always possessed. The question isn't whether we'll encounter these truths eventually, but whether we'll recognize and embody them now. In this light, the entire journey of life reveals itself as preparation for recognition, not recognition of something foreign or distant, but recognition of our own deepest nature. Every moment of presence strengthens our connection to the light. Every conscious transition deepens our trust in transformation. Every act of compassion weaves us more consciously into the web of existence. The invitation is clear. to live now with the wisdom that typically comes only at life's end, to embody the truths that near-death experiences reveal, to recognize in every moment the light, the passage, and the connection that define our essential nature. This isn't about perfection, but about presence. Not about achievement, but about recognition. Not about becoming something else, but about remembering who we've always been. As we integrate these insights, we discover that the ultimate spiritual practice is simply this: to live as if we can see through death's door right now, to act with the awareness that every choice ripples through eternity, to love with the recognition that separation is an illusion. In this practice, life and death reveal themselves not as opposites, but as complementary aspects of one continuous journey of consciousness, discovering itself, loving itself, and evolving toward ever greater recognition of its own infinite nature.